Good morning. How are you today? I hope you are well. I am extremely well. We thank God for another day, and it's Monday. And you know, when it's Monday, I come through on this platform, which we run every Monday to Friday, the 7:30 Mentorship Academy, as you can see up there, with the 4 next to it. That means we've been running this for 4 years, and when we hit March next year, we will be 5 years down the line on this baby. That every single day we show up and we thank you. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate the fact that you're part of what we're doing. And we bring these as our way of giving back to the community. And I will tell you this, every single working day of the week, one of us is here. So on Mondays, there's myself with Unleashing Your Destiny. This is part of my free giving back. Unleashing Your Destiny helps individuals like yourself to open and understand what is it that you're on this earth for. So the big question is, what on earth are you here for? Exactly. That's the big question. And myself, take you through a very comprehensive program that helps you understand that. Now, if you want to go beyond just these free sessions, we have a mentorship program that we're running. In fact, in this month of October, I will be sharing some very powerful testimonials on my platform from those that have been part of cohort 1. So we're not taking any more people in cohort 1. We've got enough. We're running with those. We've got about 50 individuals that are subscribed and part of that. So we're going to run with those until we're done. And then we begin our next sessions in November. So I am also going to be introducing, so there'll be cohort 2 in November, but I will also be introducing the neuro leadership class. Now, that's another very profound class, which is going to be available next, like in the next cohort. So the cohort 2 will go through Unleashing Your Destiny, but those who are interested will also transition into the neuro leadership class, which will be different. That will also have its own fees, its own structure, and obviously you'll be guided on exactly what the neuro leadership class is. But either way, we're glad to have you here. And do remember to tag somebody, tell somebody that we're on and we're running. So today, Monday, you have myself. Tuesdays, you have Dr. Sunshine Sylvia. She comes through with Mindset Change program. So you can join her and be part of that. She's also running that quite comprehensively. Physical classes, books. She's got a lot of material available for the same. Then on Wednesdays is open market, and then Thursdays we have Dr. Nelly Kangwa with Prosperity for Your Soul, and then on Fridays we have Dr. Jacqueline Mulundika with Healthy Tips, and then we normally have guest features by Dr. John Mubanga, who is also sometimes standing in for Dr. Jackie. But right now, Dr. Jackie is now back, so you should be able to see some of our programs, especially starting this week probably. So this week and then Dr. Mubanga, they'll be interchanging depending on who's available. Now, I will ask you, those that have been able to join, I know a number of you are struggling with your internet, struggling with power, struggling with whatever, just tag somebody, let them know that we're live, post your greeting, show us that you're alive and living, that you're here, and we will be able to obviously appreciate your presence. Now, right now, I want to go into a very interesting topic, this one here. And why am I sharing this particular topic? I shared it on Thursday and had massive feedback. And then a number of us on this platform are also business people. And so because we're in business, this is one of those deeply serious changes that have come. So we're going to be looking at 2 key topics around mastering tax compliance. And these are very interesting. The first one is tax clearance, which I think a lot of people are familiar with. But the second one, which is absolutely critical, and that's the one I'm going to be discussing today, is on smart invoicing. So if you haven't heard of smart invoicing, tag somebody, tell them, hey, dude, they're talking about taxes. And I want to say this. It's so important to understand this because on smart invoicing, even though Zambia Revenue Authority transitioned into the smart invoice platform on the 15th of December last year, it is now become mandatory. In other words, from the 1st of October, you are now mandated by law, and hear me well, you're now mandated by law to ensure that you are utilizing and using the smart invoicing. And what's even more interesting is that those that are registered under VAT, it's not just mandatory, it is absolutely important that this is the new way to go. So in other words, if you're VAT registered, then you must use the Smart Invoice. There's no what's that thing? There's no grace period or whatever it is. It's done now. You gotta go Smart Invoice. So I'm gonna explain exactly what Smart Invoice is. And here are the repercussions. If you don't follow what I'm telling you, you risk having penalties and fines because it's now mandated by law. Like I told you, the Minister of Finance and National Planning, Dr. Stumbeko Musokotwane, actually officially launched the Smart Invoice on the 19th of March 2024, okay? So during the 2024 national budget, Dr. Stumbeko actually announced the implementation of electronic invoicing in Zambia. So we now invoice electronically. And this now allows the ZRA, or the Zambia Revenue Authority, to receive real-time business transactions. So when you invoice, the ZRA has to see it. And this is not just for you as the business owner, but even those that are procuring your services. So you're a supplier. But if they're procuring your service, they are now mandated by law. So you'll notice that there are other taxes which have kicked in very powerfully, and one of them is withholding tax. So if you're not going to Smart Invoice, they're going to charge withholding tax. They are mandated. This is now those procuring services are mandated to charge withholding tax on your service. Now you as a taxpayer will receive a withholding tax certificate. So you will see all these things on the portal. So there's a lot of people that are probably looking at me and going, what the heck is the Rev talking about? So let me give you a bit of some background so that you understand what's going on. And then this way, you will be able to comply. And remember, I want to stress this also. I think it's important. Zambia Revenue Authority is not punitive. Sorry, I'm just gonna put my internet properly. Zambia Revenue Authority are not punitive when it comes to how they operate. They are interested in what we call compliant business practices. So they will help you if you are willing to be helped, if you are willing to comply to the law. And the reason is very simple. The Zambia Revenue Authority is there to just collect money on behalf of the government. We know this. And so this country has a massive number of gaps when it comes to tax collection. There's a massive informal sector that operates and they have not been properly taxed. They ought to pay taxes. The only tax they pay is indirect taxes like VAT, excise duty, but there's the revenue that they earn as a business, as individuals, that's not properly taxed. But what the Revenue Authority have been doing in conjunction with organizations like Smart Zambia and other related, arms, they have been working to tighten what we call the gap, the tax gap. So as I'm speaking to you, that's getting tightened by the day. Now, let's begin first with tax clearance. What exactly is that? It is a certificate that's issued by the ZRA when you are paying your taxes and they're compliant. Now, I must mention that what has happened in the past is that a lot of businesses were not compliant. A lot of businesses were just operating without being compliant. But now the organizations, the different organizations that manage this whole registration process are getting streamlined and now are connected. So let me begin to show you. The first organization when you want to open and register a business is PACRA. So that's the Patents and Company Registration Agency. So their job is to register new entities that are interested in doing business in Zambia. There's a whole bunch of laws that are available, that are there, that must be complied to. And what they use to ensure that they register you correctly is obviously one of the items is your national registration card or your national identity. So that's also part of the items that you use to register. Now you must remember, we are supposed to have transitioned into the smart card, the smart ID. We haven't yet, but that's seriously in the pipeline. In the past, there's been a lot of delays to do it. I know that Zambia has had the technology to do so since 2018. We've had the technology to transition onto the national ID, which is chipped. So in other words, it's got the little chip in it, and it's able to have all your bio data. So all children born since 2016 have had a national number. There's a special national number. I don't know what the actual initials for it is, but I know there's a national number. And so all the birth certificates been issued since that period have a serial number, they have a barcode, and now they have a QR code. So they are able to keep track of all those names and details in the national database. Now, the NRC is supposed to be in the same space, but you know that that's been one document that has been seriously abused in the past. And so there's still a lot of challenges as they clean up the database. But what I will tell you is that when you go and register with PACRA, they will capture that number. Remember that all the SIM cards have been mandated by law to be registered with the NRC alongside. That's been extremely problematic. We know for a fact, because even now you can walk to intercity and buy yourself an already registered SIM card with a number and a name. So why is that possible? Because we have a major loophole, and we have fake NRCs coming out of Matera, as they call it. And so these have made the place a bit of a mess. But I can tell you that even with the SIM cards, they've been doing a lot to try and correct that. So you notice if you're going to get a new SIM card right now, they will take your picture, they will take a scan of your national ID, and those will be part of the database that is mandated through ZICTA and other arms of regulatory authorities to ensure that they're keeping track of names and numbers. So PACRA then has your NRC. Then you will notice that PACRA will request that you go get a TPIN, that's a taxpayer identification number, from Zambia Revenue Authority. Very easy to register. All you need is just your details and your NRC. And once you do that, they will register you. You will get a TPIN certificate at a personal level. If you open a company, same story. They will request that you get the company TPIN as well, because that's mandated by law. So what's going on right now is between PACRA and Zambia Revenue Authority, there is a connection. Now, those of you who run businesses that happen to do procurement, that you actually offer services as a supplier of whatever field you're in. I'm in consultancy, so I offer services as a consultant. So does Dr. Sunshine Sylvia in SBM. She does consultancy under her company. So does Dr. Nelly under PLD. So everyone on this platform is registered with companies that do consultancy, and we supply consultancy services. So people like us are mandated again to make sure that we are registered on these platforms. But beyond that, the government is now utilizing all government wings. That means your ministries, your quasi-government organizations, your agencies that are government agencies. All of them are required now to procure services using what has been set up. It is called the Electronic Government Procurement System. So EGP. So that EGP is now the means by which you can tender. So the days of tendering directly with documents, you drop them in some envelope, that's gone now. So now there is a whole electronic platform called the EGP. Now the EGP, here's the catch. When you enter your details as a company, the PACRA thing will pop up. You have to enter the PACRA number. They are connected, they are integrated. You will enter the TPIN, it is also integrated. So which means if you are running a business and you have not, done what I've just mentioned, this will not agree. The EGP system will reject your application. So this is a way in which they're trying to make sure that only legitimate companies are able to register. Now, where does all the tax thing come in? Here's where it comes in. When you register to the EGP, or when you go to supply services to any entity right now, one of the things they're going to ask for is a tax clearance certificate. So where in God's name is that tax clearance certificate gotten from? Well, these days, Zambia Revenue Authority, through a number of platforms, they have the USSD, which is the direct dial thing on your phone, star, whatever hash. Then they've also got the Tax on app, which Tax on app. They've got an app So Zambia Revenue Authority have an app which you can download. It has all these sections in it, and it operates literally exactly like their portal. And then of course they've got their website itself, zra.org.zm. So any one of these three are your major platforms. You need to make sure you're registered on those. Then you need to make sure that you start paying your taxes on time. Now, if you've got a gap from the time you opened your company to now, there's been this long gap where you're not doing anything, then what you're going to discover is that when you go to PACRA, you will discover that you have a red mark there saying you're not compliant. You need to make sure you comply. And complying means you file your annual returns. That's a mandatory thing by law. And you'll notice that if you don't do that, then that will give you problems when you try to go on the EGP, because it will say you have an issue at PACRA. So you have to go there and make sure you sort that out. Then also, if you've not paid your taxes and don't have a tax clearance certificate, it won't generate. It will just refuse to generate and say, you still owe the Revenue Authority money. Can you please make sure that you clear all dues as they have become due? Now, obviously, if you were not registering, you didn't even know about these things, then you need to visit a tax advice center. And they have right now in Lusaka, I know personally 2 of them. One is at East Park for ZRA. The other one is, of course, at the tax center at Kalambo Road, in the corner of Kalambo and Kabe roundabout there. You will find the other tax center, and they will be able to now guide you and give you data and information on what you need to do to make sure you comply. So you will find that they are very helpful in helping to show you what to do. But they do have very powerful customer service lines as well. You can call them. I've done so on many occasions, and they're pretty decent. And they will guide you and give you information on what to do. You need to make sure you have a functioning email, and that will help you to streamline things. Now, here's some advice for you. There are basically 2 tip-ins that you're offered. One tip-in is I'm just checking my gadget here to see if we're still safe with power, because I can hear noise coming from my inverter telling me that I'm running out of power. So anyway, like I was saying, one of the things you need to make sure you do is actually register with the ZRA. You have to sit down with them, and they will guide you on how you go about making sure these things are in order. And if you don't do that, then of course you'll find yourself in problems. But ZRA will happily sit down and work with you on how to put things in order, set up for waivers, set up for for pardons and things of that nature, and then you can now get up to date. But make sure that all your income you declare for yourself. Now, there are 2 bands of taxes, by the way. The first band is what they call the 800,000 kwacha and below, which is turnover tax band. And then the second band is the income tax band above 800,000 kwacha. This is what? Per year in turnover. So if you have a business that is generating over 800,000 kwacha in turnover, then that goes under income tax. But if it comes on the other side, it's turnover tax. So how do these work? Turnover tax is basically 4% of all income you earn. It's as simple as that. And then the other one is actually a percentage of your income. So you need to do provisional tax and all manner of processes. Now, as you do these things, then what happens is when you're up to date in terms of what you owe ZRA and what you've paid, then they will issue what is called a tax clearance certificate, which can be obtained, by the way, automatically on the ZRA platform. So remember, what's the ZRA platform? zra.org.zm, and then look on top there for registration or portal, tax portal. You go there, and if you've never done it before, then you begin the process of registering so that you become registered. Now, what I'm telling you is so important, because if you don't do this, you will not be able to do business pretty much. Because what I've said before, they're tightening the noose. They are making sure that any aspects where tax has been avoided, evaded, in fact the word is evaded, tax that has not been evaded is then obviously netted in. So this is going to work for any business of any sort. Any business that pretty much registers with PACRA or things like that, you will now find that you have to comply. So tax clearance is a big deal, eh? So if you want to do any kind of supply, tax clearance is one of the requirements. There's other requirements that are becoming tighter now. The NAPSA compliance certificate also is now a big deal. A number of companies are asking for NAPSA compliance alongside the tax clearance. So these have become a very big deal now. And if you don't do this, then you will find that you can't do business. So I hope you understand. So the tax clearance certificate can be obtained, like I say, by making sure that you comply and pay and are up to date with all your taxes. If you are owing, they will not give you the certificate. So you have to make sure that you comply, and when you do so, then they will, you actually automatically generate it right on the platform itself. Now, smart invoicing. Let me quickly go into that. Smart invoicing. What in God's name is that? This is the new thing that the Zambia Revenue Authority have created now. So for all of you and myself who are in business, we are now at a place where we must have smart invoices. How do those work? Let me first begin by telling you this, that all VAT registered taxpayers are required by law to issue smart invoices from the 1st of July. So if you are VAT registered, normally to be VAT registered, it means you're operating above 800,000 kwacha a month, by which means you are what's the word? Obliged, you're obligated to register for VAT. If you do not, that is actually an offense. So you're going to make sure that you register for VAT because you're above 800,000. Now remember, on income tax, you do your own tax returns like everybody else. But the difference is you have accounts, you have to do accounts, and every quarter you pay what is called provisional tax. So you are asked to estimate how much you think your business will generate in a year, and then every quarter you pay provisional tax. And the way it works is at the end of the 4 quarters, when the year is done, you sum up everything, you compare it against what you actually submitted, and then they see if there's a difference. So if your provisional tax is in excess of the actual taxes paid and income earned, then they will do a subtraction and they refund you. So you get a tax refund. That's how it works. But if your income is higher than what you provided for, then you pay the difference. Every 14th of every month, at the end of every quarter, big deal. You got to pay this. If you miss those, there are penalties. VAT is charged on top of your normal charge. So if you have a charge, you're doing business, for argument's sake, your business is worth 1,000 kwacha, whatever product or service is worth 1,000 kwacha, VAT is 16% in Zambia. I think it's still 16%. I haven't checked. You might find they change these things. I don't know. But it's supposed to be 16%. So of that 16%, it is added on top of what you already are offering. So if you're offering 1,000 kwacha, it's 16% of 1,000 kwacha, which is 160 kwacha. So your product becomes 1,160 kwacha. Now this VAT, this is government's money. And I made fun of it on Thursday, but it's a serious issue. VAT is not your money. And you need to understand that. So this VAT is you collecting money on behalf of Zambia Revenue Authority. And with VAT, government doesn't play around. ZRA do not joke around with that figure. You gotta pay what is due when it is due. And it's usually on the 14th of the following month. You gotta submit all the VAT due. So there's a way it works. VAT is usually passed on. So you don't keep adding. So for example, if you are in a supply chain and you're not the last consumer, there is somebody that consumed after you. Normally what will be done is the VAT paid to ZRA minus the VAT paid by the other person. The difference, that's what is refunded back to you. So in other words, even though you paid it, there is always a VAT refund. And this is if you are a supplier. So in other words, you're not the end consumer. But if you are the end consumer of a product, like for example, you go and buy equipment for use in your business, you can't really claim a VAT refund on that. But if you're adding value to something and then it's being sold to someone else and they also pay VAT, that difference you can claim. So the difference is the VAT you paid to procure the items you use to do whatever you do, and then when you sold it, whoever bought that end, that VAT you subtract, and that's what you are refunded normally by the company and by ZRA. So there's a whole process behind that. But either way, smart invoicing now requires that it is part of the VAT setup. So if you are on VAT, you are a VAT charging company because you're above 800,000 a year rather, you will have to add the VAT, you will have to use smart invoices, and this is now mandatory by law. I really want to stress that because a lot of times this is an area that a lot of people kind of miss. So you need to understand this. So if you are running a business and you've got above 800,000 a year, you need to make sure you engage the services of an accountant to help you prepare your books. Make sure that all your accounts are in order. Make sure that what you need to claim is claimed. By the way, you'll be absolutely amazed how much you can claim as a tax refund or is tax deductible when you are a income tax payer. So income tax is actually a better option for taxes than turnover tax, because turnover tax, it doesn't matter whether you made a loss or made a profit, it's immaterial. It's 4% of your income. So they don't care about your accounts. They just know that you earned 10,000 kwacha. Can you pay us our 400 kwacha, which is 4% of the 10,000 kwacha? That's how it works. But if you are on income tax, it's a whole other story. That's why you pay a provisional tax every quarter. They say, can you estimate how much your business makes in a year? Oh, we make if you're on income tax, you cannot be under 800,000. So you have to say 1.5 million kwacha. All right. So from the 1.5 million kwacha, your tax is 35% corporate tax, or whatever it is. Then they're going to work that out. Then they're going to, so let's go with a million. So a million kwacha, 35%, 350,000 kwacha. Okay, 350,000 kwacha, divide that by 4. What does it give you? It gives you 17 and a half, 9 point something. So every quarter you need to pay about 9,000 kwacha. That's how it would work. So they'll say, pay the 900,000 kwacha, it is now due. And that 900,000 is a provisional, sorry, did I say 900,000? I think it's 90,000, my apologies. So the 90,000 is a provisional tax which you have to pay every quarter. Now the smart invoices are the things that you generate. In the past, we would have our own invoicing equipment or software that would use. But right now, ZRA have mandated that all software being used to generate invoices must be ZRA Smart Invoice compliant. In other words, integrated. So right now, last I checked, I think there's a list of about 32 companies on their website that have the mandate. They have compliant software. So if you are using third-party software, this is the companies these are the only lists that ZRA has, which by the way you can find on the ZRA site, and you will see that those companies are the ones that actually have mandated software. If you are using software which doesn't have the smart invoicing, then those invoices are illegal and cannot be considered. So if you're going to be if you're going to be a service provider or a supplier, you have to either generate an invoice using the official list of software, or use the Smart Invoice portal on ZRA, because they do have a portal you can register, and once you're there, put in all your details. Once it's agreed, then it will help you generate invoices. Now hear me carefully. An invoice and a quotation are not one and the same thing. So please be aware. When you generate an invoice, and I think this part is so important, I need to pause and get you to pay attention. So if you were kind of multitasking, I want you to listen to me now. This part I'm about to say is so critical, because if you get it wrong, you pay some serious penalties for it. Not from ZRA, yourself. You will find yourself in problems for nothing. So hear me carefully. An invoice is not a quotation. When a company requests for a quotation, that can be generated by whatever software you use. It's not an issue. But if you then generate an invoice is immediately tax deductible. As far as the Revenue Authority is concerned, that's a sale. And you are immediately liable to pay the tax on it. Now, that's a serious issue. Now, we have a problem in this country. We know for a fact that there's a lot of companies we issue invoices to who don't pay the invoices on time. And so they end up generating, they end up becoming, late payment, and then it just accumulates and accumulates. The problem with the Revenue Authority is that when it is an invoice, they are going to tax you for it. And if you don't pay, you become liable not just to the tax, but the fines and penalties that go with it. I'll say this again. Do not issue an invoice except where work has been done or work is now being done, because it is an invoice that companies use to generate payment. And if there's a problem, of course, then that means you have to have a serious conversation with your tax people to let them know that I have a company that's actually owing me, they have not paid, blah, 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 blah. And the tax officers on those platforms will guide you on what to do. But you must only issue invoices upon work done or work being or ongoing work, not when work hasn't been done. Because when it comes to ZRA, they consider that you've been paid and they will demand tax for it. And if you don't pay tax, what will happen? You will accumulate fines and penalties for failure to pay those taxes. So I hope that bit has really been understood, because this one is very serious. So when you're issuing invoices, especially on Smart Invoice, make sure that it's for work that's ongoing or work that's been done. So that when you do that, then you're really just waiting for their payment pipeline. 30 days to payment, 15 days for payment. You know, different companies are different. Cash on delivery. There are different terms that are given for these things, but taxes are still obligatory and must be paid when invoices are produced. So remember, an invoice has a lifespan between the 1st and the 31st of the month. So when that month is over, then now when you're doing your tabulations of your returns, then it is here. From the 1st of that month, you have until, you know, it varies. Some is the 10th, some is the 14th of that month to pay this liability. If this liability is not paid, it becomes pending and outstanding. And then you've got 30 days, 60 days, and if you go beyond 60 days, ZRA will definitely come on you like a ton of bricks. So you've got to make sure that you start to pay. The beauty about the platforms that ZRA has, like the tax payment platform, is that you can do part payments, okay? So which means if, for example, you've issued an invoice and then, you know, they pay you partly, you can then take the same payment and also pay partly. The system will generate something called a PRN, and that PRN is the one that you use to pay either on mobile money or directly to the bank, whatever. But you can make those payments, and that means you start to reduce your liability with the tax people. Remember, tax certificates, tax clearance certificates are virtual and real time. So if even if it's issued, if there's a problem, the procurer can be able to verify when they get those tax clearance certificates, or they get the NAPSA clearance certificates, or they get the withholding tax certificates, or whatever you issue. You know, even the tipping, they can verify in real time. Anybody can go on the ZRI website, punch in the details of your document, and it will verify then that this person is not compliant. And that means that's a problem. So they can't give you the business because they are not allowed by law to give business to somebody that's not compliant. So make sure that if you owe the tax office something, you pay them. Just go and pay them quickly so that you're on track. If it's current, that doesn't mess you up. But once you go past the 30 days, 30 days after what? 30 days after the material month. Because remember, we pay taxes historically. We don't pay taxes now, we pay taxes historically. So that means right now in the month of October, we're paying taxes for September. And this is the 7th of October. That means we still got about 3 to 7 days before we are actually now in the red. So the Revenue Authority gives us 14 days from the end of the month to pay what you owe. So good accounts and good companies that do these things well will normally have a separate portion in their accounts where funds are retained. They are retained to pay the taxes when they fall due. The function of a good accountant, I want to end with this. The function of a good accountant is to help the company manage its cash flow. So what does that mean? That means as you receive payments and as expenses and dues fall and expenses fall due, the job of an accountant is to help management to know when that is and to set money aside as it comes. So for example, you may receive a 10,000 kwacha payment. A good accountant will say, okay, I know you're excited about the 10,000 kwacha. I know you need to buy this and that, but we have tax due on the 5th and the tax is X amount. And so when that is so, then the accountant will say, that means we do not have, in that 10,000, we don't have a 5,000. All right, on the 15th, we have salaries due, and this is how much we need to pay. So from the 67,000 kwacha in the account, over 40,000 is not hours, that's for salaries. So you know, that's the job of a good accountant. And so at any given time, the accountant gives the position in their daily meetings, weekly meetings, whatever meetings they have, when it comes to budgeting and planning for the week. That accountant helps to give the position. So what's our position in terms of our finances? Accountant say, all right, we have so much in the account. This is what is due. This is what is outstanding. This is what's going to be due on this day, on that day, and this is what's going to happen, and that's what's going to happen. And so what we have actually right now is about 7,000. And then so management will then sit and decide, all right, we have business coming in on this day, and we have that's going to happen, and we're going to have that, and then we're going to have that. And so we need so much to operate. And you said we've got 7,000, but we need about 12. Can we take the risk? Can we use that money to do this in the belief that by that date we'll have then generated other money from other things? And then the accountant will give a position, then management will make a decision. But usually the accountant does help the company to manage cash flow. And I tell you, anybody who's in business, cash flow is the lifeline of any business. So smart invoicing is the new thing now, my friends, and we are all obligated by law to make sure that we're using the smart invoice system. So where is it found? It's on the ZRA website. That's zra.org.zm. All right, when you go on that, on your top right-hand corner, there's a navigation bar there. You should see Smart Invoicing. Go in there and then go through the registration process so you can register to become part of that. Remember, you can't register if you are not PACRA registered, if you are not already TIPIN registered by the Zambia Revenue Authority for your company. Remember, they are different. There's personal TIPIN and there is company TIPIN. So you need to have company TIPIN. Once you have the company TIPIN in place, you're home and dry, because what then follows is then you can go and register for the smart invoicing. And what happens is they'll give you a portal. You could be able to create a user portal, just like the one you use for paying taxes, because we pay taxes using the user portal. So ZRA has a very powerful portal. Once you've registered, it's done. So the same model. You enter all your details. When you're done, then it will send you a prompt. Then you get credentials. Then you set up your password, and you're good to go. Now, one little piece of advice. Please do not operate these platforms using any gadget anyhow. Don't have this habit of walking into internet cafes and doing this thing, because a lot of people, this is how your credentials get stolen, your IDs get stolen. Make it a point that you have your own personal platforms, because cybersecurity today, because of what's going on with all these online platforms, you want to make sure that you're using your own credentials. Don't have somebody else do credentials for you unless you know what you're doing. I think this is a very important thing to emphasize, because a lot of people just give up their credentials anyhow. Going to a net cafe, I need to pay tax. Please, yeah, that's my password. That's my no. And a lot of times you're doing this on browsers that are in a net cafe. If I'm a cyber thief, all I do is walk into a net cafe. I open the browser, I go to the history password section, and it will open, and I'll see all the different people that use that machine that day. And with special software, which I can install without the knowledge of the people, I can harvest all those emails, passwords. That's why a lot of you are having your accounts hacked. It's because you go into public computers and you use them anyhow. And that's why Google now has safety features which actually ask you, is this a public or private computer? And if you are a bit familiar, you make sure it's a private computer. If it's public, say public, and it will make sure it doesn't keep those details. I think a lot of you, in view of what's going on with the taxes and everybody, needs serious lessons on cybersecurity and cybersecurity awareness so that you avoid being hacked. People have lost thousands and millions of kwatas through being hacked because of careless things like what I'm saying. So ZRA has created these smart invoices, and once you've registered and they send you your credentials, you set up your password, you're good to go. And then next time you have any business and they say, could you send us your invoice so that we can process payment? Then you now go to the ZRA portal, and it gives you all the options, the drop-down menus on the type of business and all those things, descriptions, unit charges, the whole works. It's all there. And then you charge and send. There's even a section where you can enter your terms and conditions. You enter that, and you're good to go. So this helps you so that now you're compliant and you're safe. And so I hope on that note, many of you have gotten. And by the way, if you get a bit confused and overwhelmed with what I've been explaining, the ZRA platform has an FAQ, frequently asked questions section. So you can go to the FAQ and there's a lot of data there, like pretty much everything you need. There's even downloadable PDFs, which you can download with all the information, step-by-step guidance on what you can do. So you are without excuse. You don't need to be an IT, technician to do what I'm telling you. This is stuff you can do yourself. If you can set up a Facebook account and do it, if you can create an email and start using it, then you can do the ZRI thing. It's not complicated at all. This is as straightforward can be. And so on that note, I really hope you've been able to learn something. Share this video with all the key people that you need. If you are a company, this is a serious meeting. So have a meeting with your members and tell them, hey guys, listen, this is a new thing. If you run a sales team, remember, quotations are different from invoices. Just remember that. Invoices should be issued by one and the same person. Quotations can be issued by anyone, it's not a pressure. But for invoices, you got to control that, because if you mess it up, remember, taxes become due the moment an invoice is produced. All right, on that note, I want to thank you guys. Tomorrow, Sunshine is here. Make sure you join her as she comes through with her program. Have a great day, guys, and see you then.